So, what would you little maniacs like to do first?
Hello, hello, hello. I think I'm going to wait a couple more minutes to see if anybody else comes in before I get started. But in the meanwhile, let me put this up on the screen because I'm going to be working on something on Saturday. But in the meantime, how are you doing? What's up? What's up? What's up? Let me put this on the screen. I'll do it at the beginning of this and then also at the end of this. This is what I will be doing on Saturday around 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I will be on the channel Ocean Chicks Films, and we'll be talking about basically like the newest releases in horror and also talking about our most anticipated horror movies coming up. So look forward to that on Saturday. And I'm going to get into your, yeah, I'm tired too. Let me take this banner down. I'm tired too. I have circles underneath my eyes that I didn't cover up. My shirt says we are family. Cause we are. Anybody who acts like they don't have a person that's in the um LGBTQIA plus community, you're full of shit. You have people in your family and you should support them. And that's what I have to say about that. All right, let me get my screen lined up because I think we're going to talk about Stranger Things first, and then we'll get into the Chucky series. Bear with me. There we go. Chapter 3, The Monster and the Superhero. I like how this one opens. That it kind of opens with this sequence with this lady in her kitchen, and the way the wind and the lights come through the blinds. It kind of reminds me of a specific scene in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I don't know if you've seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind or if that's what they were going for, but that's the feeling that it was giving me. And it introduces a new character. This army general guy. I don't know if he's a general or what he's supposed to be, but he's kind of creepy. So like this there. Sorry, I have computer issues. Well, actually, the computer's not the issue. I'm the issue, but I'm trying. Tony says, "Never seen. I'm such a loser." Oh well, you need to see Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It's an well, in my memory, I'm thinking it's an amazing movie, but I have not seen it as an adult. So take that with a grain of salt. I've seen it as a kid, and as a kid, I thought it was a great movie. So there's that. So, anyways, this army guy is looking for 11, and he's talking to that doctor that was working with her. Maybe the first season, I think we met him, or maybe the second season, and he's not trying to give up any information. So they pretty much ransack his house and scare his wife and everything, trying to find 11. So that alerts the doctor to what's going on. He also mentions that 11 was actually trained to perform remote assassinations, which is that's wild. Like she's literally a weapon. That little girl Angela's face is still busted up, and um, so they're all afraid that 11's going to get in trouble for that. Meanwhile, back in Hawkins, the jock group they decide they're going to go and look for Eddie because they think Eddie killed Chrissy. So they say they going to go. They got baseball bats and everything, and they're going to go get Eddie. And Lucas has to decide whether he wants to roll with them or not. It's just crazy because dude says to him, "You didn't really know her like that, so you don't have to come with us if you don't want to." But he still decides to go with them. But I guess that kind of worked out for the best because of something that happens in episode 4. But for now, when that first happened, I was like, why would he choose to go with them? But it ended up working in the other group of kids' favor for him to go with them. You can see how he looks a little bit conflicted is the word I'd say. He looks conflicted. I think you'll enjoy this next part. We get a better look at Vecna in all his glory, all lifted up in the sky. And to me, he kind of reminded me of something that would have been in a anime in the 80s, like an evil creature from anime in the 80s. But shout out to Tony Man because he actually said, let me take this off the screen so you can see that he reminded him of the doctor from Hellraiser 2, sorry. Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. The way he lifted up in the sky. And now I could see it. Sorry if my energy is not all the way up there. I literally got asthma attack before I came on camera, so that's why my voice is hoarse too. Tony Mean says, like the Overfiend. Yeah, Yuri Sakidocho or Sakidochi? Yuri Sakidochi. I know it's Legend of the Overfiend, but I'm trying to think of the Japanese title. Somebody will tell me that's watching this. So what happens next? The police show up to arrest 11 or Jane, however, I still call her 11, even though she's going by Jane. And so she goes with them willingly because, like, what's she going to do? She doesn't have her powers at this point. So she goes with these police officers. And, everybody's all upset in California. Back in Hawkins, Nancy, and I always forget the girl's name, Robin. For some reason, I had to keep writing it down because for some reason her name was not coming to me. But Nancy and Robin decide they're going to go to the library and do some research, and they end up looking through. Oh, I forgot. I see how bad it is. I was gonna say that I'm not that interested in Joyce and Murray's storyline, and I'm so disinterested that I forgot to even mention that they were going to Alaska. So, anyways, they're going to Alaska, and they're going to Alaska because they have this plan to try to help Hopper, who it's confusing to me whether he's supposed to be in Alaska or he's supposed to be in Russia or the Russians in Alaska. I'm so confused about this scenario, but it feels like they're going to Alaska to try to take a plane over to Russia. But, that's neither here nor there. Anyways, he's at the work camp still dealing with the Russians, and they call themselves trying to go and get him. Now, I am interested this is what's weird. I'm interested in Hopper's story. Hopper's story is interesting, but Joyce and Murray as characters are not interesting to me in this particular season. They're the only characters that aren't interesting. I don't know what that's about. Meanwhile, Maxine goes to visit her counselor again, and she is. Wait, let me check out this comment. It says, I hated that storyline. I zoned out whenever they showed them. Yeah, I felt like it almost slowed the whole story, the whole showdown to a snail's pace when Joyce and Murray are on screen. Now, when Murray was first introduced as a character, he was pretty comical and I enjoyed him. But now it doesn't seem like, I don't know, maybe the actor wanted to be more serious and less comical. And I feel like Winona Ryder's just giving us the same facial expression over and over again. It's just this bewildered. It's like that's all she does, like the whole time, and I'm really bored by it. So, anyways, I was saying Max goes to visit her counselor, and not really to talk to her counselor and get counsel, but to actually try to get some information about Chrissy because she knew that Chrissy was also going to see this same counselor, and she doesn't really get much information on her, but she is able to steal her keys, which is going to come back up later. While that's happening back in California, 11 is trying to escape from the police, but turns out she wasn't technically arrested. I guess the doctor dude just set it up just so he could try to get her back so that he can help her. So as soon as she tries to get out of the van, homeboy showed up. And he's like, we're gonna take you somewhere else because there's people after you. Back in Hawkins, this is who I was just previously talking about, Robin and Nancy. And they're looking through the microfiche. And I guess I have to explain what microfiche and microfilm is. Before Google, old heads like me used to have to go to the library, and if we wanted to look up a previous news article from years past, you had to go in the library and pick up these little things called microfilm or microfiche, and you had to put them in this little projector that you would turn like a wheel on a side, and it would bring up the newspaper articles for you to view. It would increase, like the articles are probably like this size, they're shrunken down to like that size, and the projector blows it up so it's about this size so you can see what the newspaper actually said. So in the 80s and early 90s, if you wanted to look up old newspapers or old magazine articles, you'd have to use this machine in order to do it. So thank God for Google, because we don't have to do that anymore. Anyways, they find out that there was an article written about Victor Creel where he had said that a demon killed his family. And his description kind of matched what Max told them that she was seeing. So they decide they're going to try and visit Victor Creel in the asylum to talk to him. Since Max stole the keys from the counselor, they snuck into the school, and now they're looking at Chris's file. Well, originally, they were just going to look at Chris's file, but then when they went in and they saw the other files the counselor had, they found out that Fred, I don't know if you remember Fred. Fred was a little nerdy guy that was in the car with Nancy when they went to the trailer park investigating before. The last little boy that died, his name was Fred. I wonder if that was also a nod to Nightmare on Elm Street. There's so many nods to Nightmare on Elm Street in this. I wonder if that's also a nod to Nightmare on Elm Street. Could be. Anyways, they find his file too. And Max tells everybody that both Chrissy and Fred were having the same symptoms that she's having and also having the same visions that she's having before they died. So, of course, she's like, I'm about to be the next person that's going to die. And everybody's all nervous and scared about this as they're looking through the files. And then I think one more thing happens before the end of the episode. The doctor takes Eleven to a diner to tell her about the grave danger that surrounds them. And she tells him, I don't have my powers anymore. But he's just like, well, that's okay. I have a plan B where I'm going to help you get your powers back. But you got to trust me. You got to come with me because everybody needs your help. So we need you to try to get your powers back. Oh, before I start chapter 4, let me say one last thing that happened in the episode that I thought was a great way to end the episode. The episode ends with Maxine seeing that grandfather clock in the school, and it's like crooked and on the wall and kind of creepy looking. I like the way that was shot. It was very, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it's very Nightmare on Elm Street, and I enjoy Nightmare on Elm Street, so I enjoyed that. I enjoyed this episode 3 because of, it gave a lot of information, but it gave it in a way that it didn't feel expositional. It didn't feel like they were just, oh, I'm going to sit down and tell you this. I'm going to sit down and tell you that. It felt natural, if that's a good way of describing it. I thought that it felt natural. I'm enjoying this season probably more than the previous seasons, except for season 1. Like season 1 was amazing. And then I would put this one as the next best. Season 2 was okay. I would say season 3 was probably the least strong of the seasons. But let's get into episode 4, because episode 4 is that joint. Let me tell you, episode 4 was trending when this first dropped. And mind you, I'm rewatching this because I binged it. I started watching it at about 7 p.m. when it premiered, and I thought, oh, I'll just watch a couple episodes and I'll come back to it. Next thing I knew, the sun was coming up. And I watched the whole thing. So now I'm rewatching it just so it's fresh in my mind as I'm talking to you, because my memory is garbage. And I will tell the order of events all mixed up if I didn't rewatch and take notes and all that kind of stuff. Kind of sucks. I wish I had one of those memories that was like super, super strong, but I don't. My short-term memory is garbage, and it kind of sucks. So with that said, let me read a comment before I go on to the next part. Every time I see that doctor, I think of Mad About You, or letting a face sucker loose in a lab, locking the door and hoping Ripley or Newt become impregnated. Yes, that is dude. Isn't his name Paul Reiser? If I'm not mistaken, I think the actor's name is Paul Reiser. And I want to say he used to be a stand-up comedian, but I could be mistaken. It feels like he was a stand-up comedian in the 80s, but I'm not 100% sure. It was like there's 3 that I used to get kind of mixed up. Paul Reiser, Dennis Miller, and Bill Maher. They're like the same dude in my head. Or the same type of dude in my head. Okay, so chapter 4 is called Dear Billy, which is named after Max's older brother. And it starts out with, it starts out with the agents trying to talk to Mike, Will, and Jonathan about where 11 is. And they're not, trying to tell them anything about, they don't really know where 11 went. Even if they could tell, they wouldn't. So either way, they don't know. And if they did know, they wouldn't tell either way. So that's that. Cuts to back in Hawkins, the jock dudes are still running around trying to find Eddie. And jock dude number 1, blonde guy, don't know his name. Sorry, didn't care to learn it. He goes and he ends up talking to Erica, who's like, I'm charging my brother by the day for covering for him. So whatever. And he gets nothing out of her, but he does find out that Lucas lied to him. So he's on the warpath. And again, how cute is Erica? Look at those bangs. Those bangs take me back to the 80s every time I see them. And you know why? Because in order to get those bangs, you have to use those sponge rollers. So if you were alive in the 80s and your mom rolled your hair, or your grandmom or your auntie or somebody rolled your hair in a sponge roller, that's how your bangs looked. So back in California, the episode jumps back and forth between Hawkins and California. I forgot the town in California, so I'm just going to say California. So back in California, Will, Mike, and Jonathan are still trying to get out of there, and they figure, we need a ride. But the only person they know that has a car is old dude that works at the pizzeria Argyle. And the whole scene with him answering the phone was hilarious because he says all this extra stuff. All I remember is the try before you deny. That should be on a t-shirt. Try before you deny with a picture of him. But that segment was really fun, and it takes you back to the 80s. Oh, look at the Pepsi sign in the background. I didn't notice that when I was watching the episode. Well, it's a clock, but it's a nice touch. It they really put their foot in this. The set design people, like, you never for a moment forget or not think that you're looking at something from the 80s. And I really admire that because that takes a lot of work. Watch somebody come in the comments and say, well, actually, that oven that he's sitting next to wasn't around till 1992. I don't know. I'm just going off of just aesthetically, it looks 80s to me. So I'm going with that. Back in Hawkins, Max, she's pretty much resigned herself to the fact that she thinks she's going to die. So she gives her friends these letters that they're instructed not to open until the event of her untimely demise. Then they'll open the letters and hear what she has to say. And obviously you can see they're clearly taken aback by this. She does this before she asks them to give her a ride to the cemetery where she wants to go visit her brother's grave. And right there, this is the first time this actor here in the middle has looked like a teenager. Most of the time when I look at him, I feel like he looks too old. Not as old as the actor playing Jonathan. Like, Jonathan looks straight up like way too old to be, playing a teenager. Whereas the actor playing Steve, he goes back and forth. Sometimes he looks like a teenager and sometimes he doesn't. In this particular scene, he actually looked like a teenager. He looks like a senior sitting there with two freshmen. That was decent. This scene I really, really like too. This is Nancy, and she has given Robin a makeover, and I kept on looking at the clothes going, what does that remind me of? What does that remind me of? It kind of reminds me of the makeover that Molly Ringwald's character gave Ali Sheedy's character in The Breakfast Club. Especially this shirt, this ruffled shirt right here. It's very Ali Sheedy at the end of The Breakfast Club. But anyways, they're on their way to the asylum to try to talk to Victor Creel themselves. And they're going to have to hustle to get to... let me see here. I have a... Did you know that the Kate Bush song Running Up That Hill hit #1 on iTunes? I did hear that. And I understand why, because you can't get it out of your head. I even looked up... I looked up the music video to see what... the original music video looked like, because I don't remember that being played on. As much as I watched MTV, I don't remember that video. So I looked up the video to watch it. I'm sure that's, since the time I looked at it, probably has 1 million views now. But yeah, the song, it sticks with you. And again, we're with Joyce and Murray. And they're going to meet Yuri, and I wish I cared, but I don't. Yuri. Yuri is even more annoying than Joyce and Murray. So that's interesting. And Yuri was supposed to have this plan. It was a plan between Yuri, this Russian guard, and Hopper. They're supposed to help Hopper escape. And they, like I said in episode 1 or 2, when I was talking about that Joyce and Murray is supposed to bring $40,000 in exchange for Hopper. Now, before I get to this part, let me just mention the actress. What is her name? I had to write it down. Oh, I almost forgot to mention Hopper's his action scene. Let me talk about Hopper and his action scene before I go back to this. I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I looked at my notes, because I would have forgotten. Hopper's action scene was so 80s. Like, you had fighting, you had explosions, you had a snowmobile escape. It was a really, really great fight sequence. This is about my 3rd time watching it. I really, really enjoyed that. They don't explain how he's able to do this with a broken ankle, but I digress. I mean, I lived through Indiana Jones jumping out of a plane with a, was it an inflatable raft? Yeah, we saw some really ridiculous stuff in the 80s, and we just believed it. Well, I don't think we really believed it. We just accepted it, which is different than believing it. We accepted it. I'm accepting Hopper's fight scenes with his broken ankle and bare feet in the frozen tundra. I'm accepting that. I was entertained. I thought it was a great sequence. It's one of three great sequences in this episode. I think that's what elevates episode 4 above the rest of the previous episodes, is the three sequences, which the first one, like I said, is Hopper's escape. That's what I'm calling it. It's really, really great. I would show it to you, but I don't want to get dinged for copyright, so that's why I'm doing the picture thing. But before I went on that tangent, I was talking about the young lady that plays Robin. And there's also, before that scene happens, a brief scare scene with Maxine when she goes to visit her mother, or what she thinks is her mother, before going to the graveyard. And it's really, again, very Nightmare on Elm Street. It even has, the music starts playing, and it's like the same style of piano music that you would hear in a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. It's really, really good. But then I wondered if having the clothesline, I don't know why I associate the clotheslines with Michael Myers, but well, I know why I associate clotheslines with Michael Myers, but I don't know whether them having the clothesline in frame with the Vecna monster was also a callback to Michael Myers. Could be, maybe not. Thank you, Tony Man. Maya Hawke. That's who I was next going to talk about. Before they were able to get into the asylum, they wouldn't talk to the director of the asylum, and she gives a really, really impassioned soliloquy, and her acting was, to me, was really, really good. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Margot Kidder, if you remember Margot Kidder, who played, I think her most famous role is playing Lois Lane in Superman and Superman 2, but there's something about her style of acting was giving a little bit Margot Kidder, maybe a little bit, oh, what is her name? Lily. Her first name is Lily from The Shining. Somebody tell me what is her name Lily? I can't remember the young lady's name. Well, she's not young anymore, but she was when she was in The Shining. She has really big eyes, and she's very expressive. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank of what her name is, but the lady that was in The Shining, mix her with Margot Kidder, and that's what I feel Maya Hawke was drawing on doing her performance of Robin. But her soliloquy speech about why the director of the asylum should let them go and talk to Victor Krill was really, really good. Kudos to her for that. I hope she gets nominated for something, because I thought that was really, really good. Now, when they went, and he eventually says yes, and he lets them go into the asylum to see Shelley Long. Thank you. Why did I keep thinking Lily instead of Shelley? Shelley Long. Thank you. That's who I'm talking about. When they finally go in to see Victor Krill, tell me this scene right here, this image right here, does not remind you of when Clarice first went in to go see Hannibal. It's very Silence of the Lambs, like that long hallway and the stone wall behind them. It was giving me Silence of the Lambs. I don't know whether it's meant to, but that's what it was giving me. So they talk to Victor Krill, and he tells his whole backstory about what really happened and how he pretty much tried to ice himself, which is why you see him with, as he is. And of course, that is the great Robert Englund, which, he's an amazing actor, not just in horror, just all around. Is an amazing actor. There was a little thing they had him do where he was scratching the table with his fingers. And I read that it's supposed to be an homage to Freddy Krueger, why he was scratching his fingers on the table. But so there's that. But he tells his backstory. Hold on. Do I not have? Yeah, I thought I had images. This is the house that he moved into that his wife had inherited. And as you can see, it's a huge house. He said that it felt like a dream for him and his family to move into this huge house. And you can see by the car, the time period is meant to be in the late 50s. And he talks about how he felt a presence in the house and that his son was extremely sensitive to this presence. Let me pause for a comment here. Maya's actual parents are Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman. Didn't know. I knew that her father was Ethan Hawke. I did not know that her mother was Uma Thurman. I did not know that. I knew that her dad was Ethan Hawke because she favors him. I did not know that her mom was Uma Thurman. Oh, well, then acting is in her. It's in her genes. That's supposed to be Victor Creel when he's young with his wife. Again, great costuming, great staging of the background there. This is probably a set, but the wallpaper they chose, the way the walls are. If you've been to older Victorian homes, which where I grew up in Connecticut, there still are a lot of houses like that. Some of them have been converted into apartments or duplexes, but a lot of them are still as they were. And the interior of this looks legit. So that's what I have to say about that. So in Victor's telling of the story, he's saying that there's a presence in the house that he considers to be a demon. And animals were turning up dead and the lights were flickering. And then one night, all hell broke loose. His wife was killed. His daughter was killed. He thought that the demon killed his son, but his son ended up in a coma. And then Victor Creel said his son passed away 10 days later after being in a coma, or was it 2 weeks? I didn't write down the exact time frame, but he feels that his son has passed away also. And so he was blamed for all these murders, but he's saying that it was not him, it was a demon, and that for a moment he couldn't move and he was transported back to when he was in the war. And he was reliving a memory of how he had shelled the wrong house. He thought that there were soldiers inside this house, but there weren't. And when he ordered the bombs to be dropped on the house, or the grenades or whatever they flew in the house, he went in there and it was a baby bassinet on fire. And that's when he knew he messed up, because he killed a baby. But my point is, he was transported back in time to a memory, and he was he was like frozen and he couldn't do anything. And while that's happening to him, the demon is like running in his retelling, the demon is running wreck shop through his house and killing his family. So that's his story that he told, and that's how he ended up in the asylum, because obviously nobody believes him. They think that he killed his family. But the one thing he does mention is that the only thing that broke him out of his trance was the voice of an angel. And that angel just happens to be Ella Fitzgerald. And she was singing Dream a Little Dream of Me. It was playing either on a radio or on a record player. And that's what brought him out of that trance and back into like regular reality. And I love the way they set that up, because it ended up being so important to the story. Okay, so now I have to go back because I put those pictures in the wrong spot because I'm a spaz. But we get into action sequence number 2, which is really, really, really great. So the boys are trying to figure out how to get out of this situation with the agents. And so they called up Argyle, which I talked about how he had answered the phone, to deliver them a pizza, because they figured they're just going to hop a ride with him when he comes to deliver the pizza. But before that can happen, there's, the doorbell rings. Everybody assumes it's the pizza. Nope. The agent opens the door and like some mercenaries just start shooting up the place. And it is action packed. And the way they switched from a regular film style camera to first person shooter made it even more intense. I've watched the sequence 3 times. It was really, really entertaining. And also, shout out to the camera person that ran through the house, because the camera tracks through the house of them running from these mercenaries while the agent is shooting back at the mercenaries to try to cover them. It was a really, really good sequence. They finally make it outside to the pizza van, and they're screaming at Argyle to just drive because there's a mercenary running up about to shoot them again. So they narrowly escape. But that's action sequence number 2. Mind you, this is just an episode of a TV show, but doesn't it feel more like a movie? Because that's what it felt like to me. It feels like a movie. That was really, really good. Annoying ass Yuri double crosses Murray and Joyce by giving them coffee that's obviously laced with something to make them fall asleep. So he double crossed them. He took the $40,000. He's not trying to help them get Hopper. So there's that. And that kind of sucks. Now I can go back to where I was meant to be at. Meanwhile, in Hawkins, Max is at the cemetery reading her letter to her late brother. And this scene, I know it's meant to be like touching and everything, but I got so bored. I got so bored when she was talking to her brother. I'm like, your brother was a racist asshole. But I guess, I mean, he's still your brother. So I guess you got to say your goodbyes to him or whatever. But she's there reading her letter to her brother when she slips into a trance and Vecna's about to get her again. Didn't Kamiko also sing Dream a Little Dream in the Boys? It was the same song. I feel like it was. I think you're right. I think it was the same song. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. I wonder why that is. Why that song just so happened to pop up in 2 different places. My first impulse is to think, well, did the rights to that song recently change hands? And do the new owners of that song or whatever label owns the masters of that song, are they trying to get it to sell again so they can make more money? I don't know why I always think of the negative. Could just be a happy coincidence, but I don't know. Sounds a little too fishy to me, but hopefully Ella Fitzgerald's family gets a little bit of that money. That's my hope. But she slips into a trance and they're all freaking out because they don't know what to do. They don't want her to die in front of them. And so at the same time, Robin and Nancy are they've been found out by the asylum, what did I call him? The director. And so they're being chased out of the asylum by the security, and they make it to the car just in time to hear Dustin on the radio saying it's like a code red, call back. So then as they're driving away, they're telling Dustin what they found out about the connection to music. I think I wrote down a specific way they said it. She mentions a specific how music is a lifeline back to reality. That's the word she used. She said that they found out how music is a lifeline back to reality. So Dustin on the radio finds out from Robin this, and so he's frantically trying to find her favorite song to help her come back out of this trance. It's a dope song though. I've got to listen to the whole thing in because I only know the beginning of that song. Let's talk about the underworld that she went to. The design of it is really cool to me because it reminds me, oddly enough, more than horror movies, it reminds me more of children's movies. Like the peaks in the background that you see there remind me of how the castle looks on the Dark Crystal. And then also the way the sky looks was reminding me of the Nothing, how the sky looked in the Neverending Story when they would show how the Nothing was taking everything over. It was giving that type of feel of the scarier parts of children's movies, or the movies that were for us in the 80s. I don't know about the children's movies now. The 80s, there was always like something really creepy about the children's movies, whether it was those trash cans and the graffiti people that jumped off the wall in The Wiz, or those, I don't know what you call those people with the wheelers, were they called wheelers in Return to Oz? Or what else is creepy that's in a children's movie? That witch that was in the bog in Legend. Was that Legend? Yeah, that was Legend. She was creepy. And also Darkness, who is a literal demon. Was like, these movies were supposed to be for us, but every one of them was creepy. I can't think of a children's movie in the 80s that was not creepy. Even the Goonies, they had to go up and play a bone piano and they saw like, they found One-Eyed Willie's skeleton. Like, it's creepy. Tony says Legend scares me. Tim Curry as Darkness was wild. Yeah, it's from when I was a kid watching it, that freaked me out. Seeing Darkness. He really freaked me out. But yeah, that's what this whole scenery reminds me of, those type of movies. Like she's trapped in those type of movies. But I really liked it. And it was believable because the at the beginning of the series, in episode 1, they introduce a like they would introduce you to a character, and then you get to like her. Like I liked Chrissy's character. I thought she was going to be a new character that we're going to get to know, and I was really looking forward to getting, and I liked the actress that played Chrissy. And like I said, she kind of reminded me of a cross between, who did I say? I said Rose McGowan and somebody else that she reminded me of. But I think she's meant to remind you of. But they immediately, not immediately, but you get to know her, you get to like her, and then Vecna gets her. So I feel like that's why this sequence works so well, because you almost have the expectation that because Max is seeing everything that everyone else is seeing, you just have the expectation that Vecna's going to get her, that's it. Because this show it started out, the very first season started out with Mike getting taken. So there's no safety net there. You don't feel like, oh, well, these are main characters, so nothing's going to happen to them. No, you don't have that. You don't feel like you have that safety net with these characters. And I think that's what makes it more intense. But yeah, you could see this design here. I'm sure it's CGI, but I could be mistaken. I'd love to see the behind the scenes on this. It might be a combination of a set and CGI for the stairs, I mean. But the stairs could be complete CGI. Who knows? So they figure out that Dustin knows that her favorite song is Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush. And what's interesting, I should mention this too. I did not know Kate Bush was out in the 80s. I knew her from the 90s because I want to say that I saw her name on some lineups for Lilith Fair in the 90s. So I always associate with her with 90s musicians like Tori Amos and Fiona Apple. I picture her with that group of ladies. I didn't realize she had also been out in the 80s, but some of them probably, well, not so much Fiona Apple because she was pretty young, but Tori Amos might have also been out in the 80s. I don't know. I just know her from the 90s. But anyways, I was saying Dustin puts on Running Up That Hill for Max to hear. And when she hears the music, when she's in that Vecna's world, I'm going to call it Vecna's world, she sees like a space opening up to where the regular world is. And it's the concept of it is really cool because she's running towards that space, but physically she's not running anywhere because it's all in her mind. I liked how this representation of, maybe you could call it a alternate dimension or dimensional travel. Yeah, it makes sense because when people astral project, their bodies aren't going anywhere, but their consciousness is. So yeah, I like that whole concept. I like how they did that. The Duffer Brothers said there's going to be more CGI in the next 2 episodes than all the season 3 combined. Wow. I hope it looks good. You got our hopes up, Duffer Brothers. You really got our hopes up. So she's obviously floating because Vecna is holding her up in Vecna world. But because she hears the music and she sees that space opening for her to be able to return back, she reaches up and like snatches a piece of his neck off and starts running. And I like that. It also kind of represents lucid dreaming. Have you ever lucid dreamt before? It's when you're in a dream and you realize that you're in a dream. I've only done that one time where I recognized that I was in a dream and I was able to start controlling the things around me because I knew that I was dreaming. 99.9% of the time, I never recognize that I'm in a dream. Even when my dreams do weird things, like I open a door to my bedroom and it opens to my classroom that I was in 10th grade. Like that's... like that should let you know, hey, you're dreaming. You're not in high school anymore. But, someone says like running or punching in a dream. Yeah. Which, again, Nightmare on Elm Street reference. That was one of the best things that they ever put in Nightmare on Elm Street was when Nancy was running up the stairs and she was stepping in that mush that made her run super, super slow. That is so like officially a thing that happens in dreams where you just cannot move fast enough. Very, very cool imagery or recreation and imagery. And there she is, about to be free, and then she starts running. Also, can we say something about this actress? I forget her name also. I don't know why. I'm terrible with names, but she's the opposite of what I was saying about the actors that play Steve and Jonathan. Especially Jonathan. Jonathan looks I'm sorry, actor who plays Jonathan, if you ever happen upon this. Not saying anything bad about your acting ability. I think you're an enjoyable actor. I just don't believe you as a teenager. Nothing wrong with that. Just you got plenty of time to play adult characters because you look grown as hell. She's the opposite. She looks young as hell, but she is grown. Like she's like 20 or 21 years old, but she could walk into any middle school and nobody would stop her and say, "Hey, you know, you're not a student here." Hey, Capri. Capri says, which horror movie villain is the most scariest to you? Right now, I feel like I've developed, I guess I always say watching horror is like a muscle. And when you work that muscle, you get stronger and stronger and stronger. But I can tell you in the past what has scared the crap out of me. The first creature to probably fully terrify me or person was probably Freddy Krueger. I used to be afraid of the Nightmare on Elm Street commercial TV spots when I was a kid. Like I would literally turn the volume off and close my eyes until the TV spot was over and then turn the volume back up. He was the first one to scare me. The next one to deeply affect me for days on end would have been the Cenobites and Hellraiser. I saw that when I was 14 years old. And the funny thing is I saw it on a Saturday afternoon and I was fine during the day. But then when nighttime came, I just kept on, and what was funny, I kept on looking at the blinds in my bedroom and hoping that no blue lights came through those blinds. There's something about the blue lights coming through the blinds that creeped me out the most about Hellraiser. The third would have been Candyman. I literally covered my mirror for a week when I was in high school. I covered my mirror for a week after watching Candyman. I could not, that freaked me out entirely. It was just, and what's funny, it was a boy in my class. He was in, I think it was my chemistry class or my anatomy and physiology class. I forget which one. He used to be able to do Tony Todd's voice. So he would sit in class and just say Helen in this really deep voice. And everybody would just be like, stop doing that. But that was fun times. The last two creatures that scared me as an adult, I would say would be the ghost creature, or well, I'll say it in order. First, number one would be Kayako. The first time I saw Ju-on, that freaked me out. And then the second would be the ghost creature from Martyrs, because there's something about seeing a creature raise up at the foot of your bed that is terrifying. But that creature, which was pretty much, well, no, that's a spoiler. I won't tell you a spoiler. I'll just say there's a ghost creature in the French film Martyrs, not the American film. The French film, I mean, it's in both films, but pretend that there was never an American remake because it was trash garbage, basura. Don't, no. It doesn't exist. Perish the thought. Only the French version of Martyrs exists to me. Anyways, and that version, that creature is the scariest freaking thing. I don't know why or how they make her so scary, but she scares the crap out of me. Even to this day, if I watch a review and somebody puts that creature on the screen. Oh, and I skipped over one. 6th grade. That's when I saw The Exorcist. And yeah, she scared me in 6th grade. Yeah, that freaked me the hell out. So yeah, there's been plenty of creatures that freaked me out. Brian says, good morning, partner, breath of fresh air. Good morning to you too. Where are you at? I want to know where you're at since it's morning. Good evening, breath of fresh air. And Sadie Sink. Yes, thank you. This actress' name is Sadie Sink. And she, like I said, she looks so young, and I'm almost 100% sure she's at least 20 years old. But she looks like a young teenager. So that's wild. I think Joe Keery was great in Spree. He was excellent in Spree. I think he's a great actor. I just think he should play college students or above. I just don't buy him as a teenager. I'll say Candyman 5 times and not care, but I'll never say Bloody Mary. That's interesting. I wouldn't say either, but I'm just saying. Caprice says, by the way, how enthusiastic are you for the new Exorcist remake, which is supposed to be released to theaters next year? I have mixed emotions because it's as close as you can get to a perfect horror movie. In my opinion, it's like the closest if there's no such thing as perfection. That's why I say that. There's never ever a such thing as perfection. But the closest thing to perfection, if I have to name it, is The Exorcist. I don't see how you can recapture the feeling of that movie. It's just so, to me, it's so amazing the way it was done, the way the slow buildup, and it's a beautiful slow buildup. It's not slow just to be slow. It's a lot of things are happening. They're just not happening fast. And I don't know, it's just something about it. The way that it's filmed, the way the characters are, the whole sequence with her in the hospital, like, I just don't see them coming anywhere close to it. And I've said before, I don't like when they remake classic movies. Don't remake amazing movies. Remake bad movies. Remake 976 Evil. Remake The Ice Cream Man. Dr. Giggles. You could do that one. Yeah, I could see where there's improvement. Don't remake Alien. Don't remake The Exorcist. Stop remaking classic films that are near perfect. Remake that's the thing about the 80s remakes. That's what made them so good. They remade bad movies or B movies. Like when you watch The Thing, obviously it's going to be much better than The Thing from Another World, just budgetary wise. They had more to work with. When you rewatch The Fly, which even though I really, really enjoy the original black and white The Fly with Vincent Price, I really like that one. I grew up on that on Spine Tingler Theater on Saturdays. Still loved the 1986 Cronenberg The Fly because they were able to do so much more. What's another one? The Blob. Like that was a drive-in B movie. That wasn't, they didn't try to remake Citizen Kane. You know what I mean? Like you gotta, that's my thing about it. These mofos are trying to remake Suspiria and stuff. Like, no, don't remake that. Remake, I don't know, just name any bad B movie. Remake I Drink Your Blood. That's right for a remake. Or what's there one called? I Eat Your Flesh? I'm thinking of these drive-in classics. Or here's a good remake. The one, I never remember the full title. It's like the crazy teenage kids who stopped living and became mixed up zombies. Something like that. Remake those movies. Don't remake classics. I'm sorry. Brian says Mississippi. My mistake. Oh, okay. So it's earlier in the day for you in Mississippi. Lordrin says, hey, Lady Shasha and my great horror family. What's up? Lordrin says, the Exorcist TV show was the shit. I was surprised. I was really surprised because I did not expect it to be as good as it was. It was very good. And I think the reason why it was good is because it wasn't really a remake, but more a like side stories that relate to exorcism and possession, but weren't about Reagan. Tony Man says remake Critters. You're implying that Critters was a bad movie. I don't think Critters was a bad movie. Maybe it was considered a B movie. I like Critters. All right, let me get into this. Since there's more people here, I do have to show you guys something. This is what I was saying. She was escaping, and we were, before you guys came, I don't know if you were here when Tony Man and I were talking about the whole Kate Bush Running Up That Hill song is #1 on iTunes. And when you watch this episode, it's hard to get that song out of your head. It is an earworm. I actually like it. I don't remember hearing it in the 80s, but I'm glad I'm hearing it now. So that was the end of that. Let me X out of here. And I want to share, since there's more people in here, I'm going to repeat my little ad from earlier. Here we go. On Saturday, I will be on Ocean Chicks Films channel for Spirits and Screams. We're going to have like a ladies' night. It's going to be a bunch of us talking. We're going to talk about new release horror movies and also what our most anticipated horror movies are. That train scene in the Exorcist TV show was scary as hell. Yes. I think they put their foot in it. Another one, Lordran, have you seen this show called Evil? Because I was thinking of pairing those two together to review later in the summer. I was going to do the Exorcist TV show and Evil, and it looks like they're about to start Evil season 3 soon. But yeah, that's for Saturday. And let me see, can I switch tabs like this? I hate how I can't just go from tab to tab. I have to go all the way out and then come back in, or maybe I'm doing something wrong. There we go. Now we're going to talk about Chucky, episodes 3 and 4. Before I do that, there's a couple more comments here. It says, I meant ghoulies, not critters. It's like Deep Impact and Armageddon at the same time. Yeah, okay, now I get you. Yes, ghoulies should be remade. I enjoy ghoulies, but it is a B movie, and I think they could have done better. Yes, I agree with that. Yes, remake ghoulies. That would be fun. Lauren says, yes, I've seen Evil. That demon always attacking the mother was scary, was crazy scary. Yes. Okay, let's get into, let me pull up my notes because you guys know my memory. No, it's funny. I tried to get some ginkgo biloba. It's supposed to help you with your memory, but I can't remember where I put it. Like, no, for real. I cannot remember where I put the ginkgo biloba that I'm supposed to take from my memory. Okay, so this episode starts with Chucky talking to Jake about, basically getting rid of, what's her name, Lizzie? Was it Lizzie? What the heck was that girl's name? Lexi. Anyways, Chucky's like, in the last episode, I believe because I talked about, I know it's been like 2 weeks, that's why it's hard to remember. I think when we left off, Lexi had just dressed up like his deceased father at a Halloween party. And that is so jacked up. Like, that's some super evil stuff to do. So anyways, Chucky is talking to Jake like, you got to take care of this girl because, it's not right. But the conversation is funny because Chucky asks him if he's more a stabbing type of guy or strangulation type of guy. And it's interesting because I believe Charles Lee Ray was known as the Lakeside Strangler, but he really didn't strangle people. He actually was stabbing people. But, that's besides the point. So that's why Jake is looking at him like, what do you mean? Am I more a strangulation type person or a choking type person? Because, this is a regular conversation for Chucky. That's what he talks about. That's what he enjoys doing. Jake does ask Chucky how long he's been doing this, and we get a flashback to a birthday party. I might have an image of that. Do I? Yes, I do. We get a flashback to, this supposed to be little Charles Lee Ray at his birthday party back in the 50s, 60s, somewhere around that time period. And he goes from this to, with his knife stabbing the cake. So he's always been stabby. That's Charles Lee Ray. He's always been stabby, and he's proud of this. Oh, as the birthday party's going on, there is a radio announcement in the background that says that there is a murderer on the loose. Now, at this time, like, my mind automatically assumed it was him, but it actually wasn't him. It was this other guy that was on the loose, but he admires that other guy. So he gets Jake to practice, and he's telling Jake, okay, you got to learn where what their patterns are, where they go to, when you can catch them here or there. And so we are watching Jake stalk somebody running, but there's two people running at the same time. They got the same outfit on. One of them is Lexi, and one of them is his cousin Junior. He thinks that he's stalking Lexi, and so he's running around with this knife in the woods trying to stalk Lexi jogging. But when he runs up, it turns out that it's not even Lexi, it's Jake. So then he doesn't do it. He just ends up looking like a weirdo. Meanwhile, Lexi's little sister is having a meltdown because she wants Chucky. And, clearly you can see what a beautiful home when you look at this. I really like that. I like the scallop doorways and everything. But she's having, a hissy fit because she wants Chucky. Oh, I have some comments. Let me read some comments here. Tony Man says, oh, wow, LOL. Capri says, I have seen it. Patrick Walker says, I'm loving your channel. Great reviews. Thank you, Uncle Pat. Capri says it's a great show, Evil. Yes, it is. It really is. I was shocked. More people should be talking about it. I will be talking about it because I think that. Tony says, if my child stabbed his birthday cake, it's into the psych ward with you. So I was saying she's having a hissy fit because she wants Chucky. Because, I would say who wouldn't, because she's a little kid, and little kids, not all little kids, but a lot of little kids like dolls. So it makes complete sense. And when Jake, I have these in the opposite order than they should be in. I don't know how I did that, but I'm going to come back to it. Jake was in the garage and he's picking up these different tools to decide what he likes to use the most. And he does pick up some hedge clippers, and it reminded me of The Burning. I don't know if it's meant to be an homage, but these are the homages that I would have thought of. So when he picked up the hedge clippers, I thought of the movie The Burning, because that's what the slasher used the most in The Burning. Then he picked up like this hook shaped kind of knife thing. And of course, I immediately thought of Candyman. But you could also say it could be a homage to the fisherman in I Know What You Did Last Summer. So I was thinking about those things when he was picking up the scythe. Devin's mother comes to question him, and she really kind of wants him to stay away from Jake because she thinks that Jake is the cause of all these issues. And I admire their what's the word I'm looking for? Realism in how they set up Jake's room, because Jake has a podcast and apparently he must live stream too, because he does have the ring light. He has I don't know if I can show it on here. That's like the same ring light that I have. And you can see behind me, it's like the same same type of mic setup. This is what I use when I'm doing just the voiceovers for some of my videos. Like his whole setup is like, it's legit. I like that. I like that they kept it real with that. So his mother is telling him, listen, I don't want you hanging around with Jake anymore because too many people are dying. I don't like it. You need to like back away from him. And he's like basically defending his friend. He's like, Jake is not to blame for these things, so you don't have to worry about that. And I just put that picture there because he's such a cutie. He's an adorable kid. I like their relationship in the TV show a lot, and I like these kids, both the actors in Stranger Things and the actors on Chucky. I really thought the casting director did an awesome job in selecting the right types of actors. I thought they're doing an excellent job with this, and that's why I paired these two shows together. I've seen this actress before somewhere, but I don't know where I recognize her from. But I recognize her from something. Somebody in the comments, if you know who she is or what she's been in, let me know. Eventually, I'll probably just look it up on IMDb, but I didn't have time today. So anyways, Jake decides to take Chucky over to Lexi's house to give him to Caroline. Really, Chucky just wants to get in the house so that he can ice Lexi. But which is kind of messed up when you think about it. Jake knows that this doll is about to try to kill this girl, and he's like, oh, yeah, sure, go ahead. But I get where he's coming from because, like I just said, what she did dressing up like his deceased father was messed up. And being that they are middle school age, in middle school, you feel things so intensely. When you're angry, you're intensely angry. When you're sad, you're intensely sad. When you're happy, you're intensely happy. So I get why he would do these things because he's still technically still a child. They're teenagers, but teenagers are still children. Already regretting it. And look at that house. The house, I don't know if the door is meant to remind you of the house from Nightmare on Elm Street, but the door reminds me of the house from Nightmare on Elm Street. The whole facade, like the where the columns are and everything, remind me of the house from Nightmare on Elm Street. So Chucky's in the house trying to stalk Lexi. I do notice one thing with the different Chuckies that they use. I mean, obviously they use more than one Chucky to film this because they have the animatronic Chucky, they have the Chucky that people can hold and pass around, and they have the uh, smaller actor that does some of the running scenes that plays Chucky. Sometimes you can tell the difference in the haircut, and I think they should have had maybe made the haircuts streamlined so it looks the same on all the different incarnations of Chucky. Because I kept noticing that the hair kept on changing, but that may be just me. So she is putting her little sister to bed, and it's funny because she asked her to sing her a song, and she sings a song what sounds in a lullaby type way, but the song that she's singing is "Don't Fear the Reaper," and I just thought that was funny. So she puts Caroline to bed with Chucky, and she goes downstairs, and they have this silent party, which I really love the idea of because you don't have to worry about the cops getting called on you for noise. I actually walked by one of those in Orlando one time. It was an outdoor, it was like an outdoor patio. Everybody had their headphones on and they're dancing. And when you walk by, it looks kind of funny because it's a bunch of people dancing, but you can't hear the music. But I like the idea of the silent party. Okay. Tony Man says that actress has been in a bunch of movies. The one everyone may know is Clown, another awesome movie. Oh, was she in Clown? You're talking about the slasher movie with the clown that went to the birthday party and the kids tricked him and he fell and accidentally was impaled and then he came back to life and stalked those kids like I don't know 5 or 10 years later when they were teenagers. That no, that's not Clown. I I think you're thinking I'm thinking of the wrong movie. Clown. Do you mean the one where the guy found the clown suit and then he put it on and he couldn't take it off and he became a creature? I'm confusing two movies together. There's so many killer clown movies. Lordran says, psych wards take too long. A nice trip to a dark hallway will do the trick. Yeah. So, Chucky runs Rec Shop through the house. He ends up getting rid of what's the little boy's name? He got rid of somebody else before he got to Lexi. I feel like his name starts with an A. Oh, I don't know the little boy's name. I thought I wrote it down, but he ends up icing some kid before he gets to Lexi. And the scene where he gets to Lexi is funny as heck because he jumps on her back and his little legs are like going back and forth like Chucky's legs do. And Lexi drops her, had been smoking a joint and she drops it and lights the curtains on fire. That's what you're seeing here is Chucky rejoicing in the mayhem that he has created because this is what he loves. Lorjan says that's the one, Lady Shasha. The clown movie with the suit where the guy couldn't get it off. And Tony Man also says, yes, that's the one. I think the other one I was thinking of is called Stitches. Now that I think of it, it's called Stitches, the other one. So this is how the episode ends. And like I said, I love the fight scene between Chucky and Lexi. It was executed really well with the animatronics because usually what they do is they'll have the animatronic crew in there and then they just green screen them out. But the way his legs were kicking back and forth while he had his arms around her neck and he was on her back and he was kicking his legs. It was funny as hell to me. That's one thing that I love about Child's Play and the Chucky series is that They still include how comical it is that what it would look like if a doll was attacking people. Like you can't play that too straight, and I think that's what messes up the Annabelle movies. I think they play it too straight. You have to acknowledge the comedy in a doll attacking people. So let's roll into episode 4, which picks up at the hospital because all the kids, had to run out of the house because of the fire. And this shot of the hospital is kind of cool, which, number one, I don't know what hospital has red lights, but I mean, okay. But it's a cool shot, nevertheless. We get a flashback again of Charles Lee Ray meeting the murderer that was running roughshod through his neighborhood. And the murderer is stalking in the house, and he was actually hiding in the closet with his mother. And instead of him just hiding with his mother, he actually killed his mother and then comes out of the closet and tells the murderer, "I helped." And it's just the wildest thing. It's like, dude was just born a psychopath. Like literally just born a psychopath. Lexi catches up with Jake in the hospital and tells him, "Hey, your doll tried to kill me." Not in those exact terms, but close enough. So they're going back and forth about what they're going to do about it. And at first she's mad at him because she was like, "You sent your doll to kill me," because he admits it. He's like, "Yeah, I told him to kill you." And then they both decide that they're going to have to do something about it together. So he says, "I noticed your Annabelle turned its head when you spoke about her in such a negative way." Well, I'm sure she did. Did I lose her sign? Yeah, her sign is in there. She still has her little sign that says "Miss Me." It's down here in the corner. It fell down. I should add a sign that says "Under no circumstances open this," because that's what her sign says in the museum in um Monroe, Connecticut. I think she's in. I think she's in Monroe, Connecticut. Devin shows up and he tells Jake about some information he found because he was doing research on Charles Lee Ray. And I think he found some articles about Charles Lee Ray dying in the toy store. And I think he also found an article where the little boy from the first Child's Play talks about his doll being possessed. I think that's what he's talking about here. I could be mistaken. Like I said, I put this presentation together 2 weeks ago, and now I'm trying to remember what I was planning on saying. I do have some notes, so let me refer to them. Oh, Devin also tells Jake about Oliver. That was the little boy's name that was killed in episode 3. Devin's mother told him that Oliver didn't burn up in the fire, that he was stabbed and he died before the fire. So Devin is this is the part where he's telling Jake what happened to Oliver. And so Jake, automatically knows that it's Chucky that did it. This was also a really great scene where the parents confront each other. These are Junior's parents, and they are confronting Lexi's parents because they're like, "This is your fault because this was at your house and you didn't supervise your daughter, and she had this party and it was a fire and everybody got hurt." Mind you, it took me this long to recognize who that actor was. Did you know that that's Devin Sawa playing? He played both Jake's father and Jake's father's twin brother, who's his uncle. And I didn't recognize him. He looked so different. The last time I seen him, this is what he looked like. He is from Final Destination. That's what he looked like back in the day in Final Destination. And this is what he looks like now. I did not recognize him at all. It's wild. So they end up fighting to the point where Junior's dad ended up punching Lexi's father in the face. But not for anything Lexi's father did. Was messed up is Lexi's mother, who was talking the most junk, but being that she is a woman, he probably didn't feel like he could punch her, so he punched her husband in the face, which is kind of not fair. It's not fair to her husband. But the same token, maybe he should have told his wife to chill with how she was talking to this dude, especially seeing as he just lost his brother. Oh, I almost forgot to mention that the guy playing Lexi's father was also in Cult of Chucky. He played the doctor. On the right side is him in Chucky, and on the left side is him in Cult of Chucky when he played the doctor in the asylum that um, I forgot the character's name, but Charles Lee Ray's daughter was sent to. Okay, so Lexi and Jake decided to go back to the house to see if they could find Chucky. And, obviously there's caution tape up because it's a crime scene now that they discovered that Oliver was stabbed in there. And it's also a hazard because it just had a house fire. So they go in there looking for Chucky, seeing if they can try to stop him. You can see this is great design too, because they showed us the house in all its glory looking nice, and now they're showing it burnt. I mean, maybe it's just me, but I'm always impressed when people really try, especially on TV shows, when they try hard with their set design, when they try hard with their costume design. It adds something. It adds something. So I really like that they did that. Meanwhile, Junior is kind of in a situation because the doctors are telling him that he's not going to be able to run track for a while or cross country because of smoke inhalation damage to his lungs. And to Junior, this is a relief because he kind of don't really want to do it anyways. He's only doing it to please his father. His father is very upset that he's going to have to take 4 weeks off. And the doctor also just told him that they're going to have to perform a procedure where they're going to, I think it was a tracheotomy, where they're going to put a camera down his trachea to take a look at his throat. They said lungs, but I don't think it would go into the lungs. I think it would only be able to see the throat. So he's going to have a procedure where they stick a camera down his throat so they can see if he has any internal damage from the smoke inhalation. And obviously that would be very scary to a child. So you could see where they put that in his mouth and he's preparing, and they told him to count backwards and he starts singing. What song did he start singing? I think I wrote it down. We Got the Beat. It was so odd that he started singing We Got the Beat. I was not expecting that from him. But he started singing that before he drifted off into, unconsciousness. We get another flashback, this time to Charles Lee Ray as a young teenager. It looks like he's about middle school age here. And shout out to this little boy's half-row. I'm going to call it a half-row because it's not an afro. It's a half-row. Because an afro, you got to pick that out and then you got to pat it back down. You got to make it nice and round. It's a hairstyle. You have to make it happen. It doesn't naturally happen. This is a half-row, but it still looks amazing. He's like a little lion. I love it. All these kids are adorable. They're absolutely adorable. Even the little psychopath Charles Lee Ray is adorable. What's years now? I'm gonna get canceled because I said that a psychopath was adorable, but it's gonna be shown completely out of context, and I'm gonna have to come on here and say a whole speech about learning and growing and trying to do better. Anyways, so Charles Lee Ray gets mad because the janitor at the boys' home that he's staying at got his sneakers wet. Well, actually, he made the janitor mad first because he walked across the floor while it was still wet and the janitor was mopping. So he pissed off the janitor. So the janitor took the mop and like slung water onto his, looked like he had some Sauconys. I don't know how to pronounce it. There's these sneakers from the 80s that they were like a suede sneaker, and it looked like the name is Saucony or Sasani. I don't know. Somebody that's older than me, tell me what those sneakers were called. But they were suede, and the janitor got his suede sneakers wet. And he was like, these are my only sneakers. So, of course, he ices the janitor. And this is the scene where the other little boys discover what he's done. And, of course, he's like, isn't this cool? And they're like, oh, crap. What are we witnessing? Okay, Tony Man says, I'd rank your Chucky chant up there with your grudge growl or your salacious bee crumb laugh. Yes. I still want a shirt that says Ade Due Dimbala. Give me the power, I beg of you. Why has no one made that shirt yet? Lordrin says, I'm going to miss you, Shasha. I love you, Annabelle. I've had Annabelle here for a long time. She has not got me yet. It's interesting that you guys are more afraid of Chucky and Annabelle when I literally have Pazuzu sitting here. That's who you should be afraid of. Put Pazuzu back over there. Or if I rub this box the wrong way, that's what you should be afraid of. But back to this. Okay. So Jake, well, actually, just before this happens, Lexi was actually about to fall. Her and Jake were arguing about something, and Lexi was about to fall, and it was so funny because she's hanging by her hands off of the ledge there, and Jake is trying to hold her up to keep her from falling, and Chucky runs out, and he starts like trying to. Do I have a picture of that? I hope I got a picture. Did I get it? There it is. He is trying to stab her feet. It was so funny because he's jumping up and down trying to stab her feet. Let me take that off. He was in, so he doesn't get her, but before he can get her, Jake pulls her up, and a police officer comes through and is like, "Y'all have to get out of here. You're trespassing. I'm about to bring you back to the hospital to your parents, and I'm taking the doll too." And that's where they end up in a cop car going back to the hospital with the doll. Because you know how Chucky does. Chucky will try to stab up something, and then as soon as somebody walks in the door, he'll sit down and act like he's an inanimate object again. So that's what he did. And so they're taking him back to the hospital. And this is when they were just outside of Caroline's room. Caroline is unconscious. That's the little baby sister. She's unconscious in the room. And this officer, do you see this officer that was here? He takes a Chucky doll back to Caroline's room. I don't know why. Like, you want that little girl to wake up and freak out seeing that ugly ass doll next to her. He takes the doll back to the room, and the doll, Chucky, end up killing the officer with he I think he threw a knife in his back, like right where it would hit his spinal cord, where he couldn't move, and he fell backwards, and so he was paralyzed. And Chucky walks up and just starts stabbing him with a bunch of hypodermic needles. Actually, do I have a bunch here? I should have had my needles out. I have a pack of hypodermic. They're highlighter pens, but they look like hypodermic needles. Anyways, he was stabbing him up with the hypodermic needles, and so he got stabbed and he's dead. Suddenly you hear like this code blue thing over the hospital because Caroline's monitor was unplugged, because I guess maybe Chucky was trying. I don't know whether the monitor got unplugged because the cop fell and unplugged it when he fell, or whether Chucky was trying to kill Caroline, because why would you try to kill that little girl? She wasn't doing nothing wrong. Anyways, everybody's running in the room to the bed. The parents, the nurses, they're thinking Caroline's in trouble. But one of the nurses sees that it's just the monitors unplugged, so she plugs it back in. Caroline's fine. But then they discovered a police officer's body next to the bed, all messed up, and Chucky is sitting there still on the ledge, burnt up and melted and stuff, and the three of them are outside of the hospital room looking at Chucky on the ledge there, and Chucky turns his head and looks at them. You see, they looking at Chucky because they know he did it. All three of them know he did it, and that's what Chucky do. He looks at them and gives them the finger. Okay. Caprice says it could just be because it's been over 22 years since Final Destination was released. I mean, people do change over the years. Oh yeah, of course. But some people still look like themselves even after 20. Like, good example, Eddie Murphy still looks like Eddie Murphy. Who else did we see 20 years ago and we see them now? I'm trying to name. See, the people that come to mind happen to all be black. And I know, as the saying goes, black don't crack. I'm trying to think of a European American person that looks the same. So maybe it's a thing. But I'm sure there's somebody. Well, Tom Cruise still looks the same after 20 years. Who else still looks the same after 20 years? William Shatner still looks the same after 50 years. Some people still look the same. They just look physically older, but they still look the same. Who else? Betty White. She looked the same for like almost 100 years. She looked the same. I still knew, oh, that's Betty White. But that guy, he really did look different. Okay, Tony Man says Sukoni pronounced Sakoni. It's pronounced Sakoni. I never had that pair of sneakers before, but I've seen them before. Yeah, that's I believe that's the type of sneakers that Chucky had on that the janitor got wet. Sakoni. Tony Man says, wasn't the little sister autistic? I think that she is meant to be read as being on the spectrum. I think she is. Lorden says Jane Seymour. Yes. Johnny Depp. Yeah, he still looks the same. Brad Pitt still looks the same 20 years. Who else still looks the same? I think this is the end of, is that the end of this? Yeah, because I just had random pictures. Yeah, there's a lot of people that they look the same, but that particular actor, I don't know why he looks so different from when he was younger. But while I'm doing it, I will say why I have these random pictures. This one I meant to put in episode 1 because that's the first time we see Devin, and I noticed that he's reading a excuse me, vintage pulp crimes magazine. It looks like that he's reading on the bus when he's first introduced, and that's how we know that he's into true crime. That was when he was talking with his mother in the hospital. That's when she told him how Oliver passed away. This was a great callback. This scene right here, when Caroline and Chucky are sitting there, and a parent, who walked up? Lexi walks up and asks her, "Why are you watching the news?" And she says, "Chucky wanted to watch the news." And that's the exact same thing he did in the very first Child's Play movie. Was tell that little boy he wanted to watch the news. And this character, I didn't mention her because the scene was very brief. The detective goes and asks her some questions, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't think Jake has anything to do with this. He's a good kid." I think that this character is going to end up being Glenn Glinda. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because of the red hair, but I feel like, or not, I should say not Glenn Glinda, but Glinda. Because if you remember in Seed of Chucky at the very end, when Tiffany has her baby, she has twins. And so Glenn Glinda's spirit is split in half into the two twins. And the boy seems to be more or less non-psychotic, whereas the girl seems to be very psychotic. And since this lady's presenting as a woman, I think that's the Glinda part of Glenn Glinda. This is just a theory, just a theory. Tony Man says 20 years ago was only 2002. I'm old as fuck. Tom Savini looks the same. Kirk Russell, Sam Jackson. Yes, yes. Because remember, Sam Jackson was in Coming to America. Was that 35 years ago, maybe? Somewhere around that. And Tom Savini definitely looks the same. Kirk Russell definitely looks the same. Yeah, I don't know what Devin Sawa did. That why he looks. Some people really do look different from. Like, there's people I've seen that just on Facebook, just people that I went to high school with that I would have never ever recognized them. And then there's other people that look exactly the same as high school, except for maybe they have a little less hair and a little more or a little more weight. Like a lot of us put on weights in high school. I'm never going to see 110 pounds again. Never. I still remember rejoicing the first time I hit 100 pounds. I was so happy. the things that we're happy about. But let me stop sharing this. I'm going to do my little ad one last time for Saturday, and then I'm probably going to wrap it up. All right. So one more time. Saturday, I will be on Ocean Chick Films channel on YouTube. And the show is called Spirits and Screams. It's going to be Ladies Night, and we are going to talk about as many new horror movies as we can think of, as well as talk about the movies that we're anticipating seeing this coming fall, winter, rest of 2022. So definitely check that out on Saturday. It's going to be 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And with that, I'm going to stop the screen. Tony Man says, "Are you cosplaying for the event?" No, I'm not going to cosplay. I will try to look better than I look today, because I'll tell you, I did not feel up to getting very dressed up. As you can see, I just barely put on some, I put lip balm on, a little bit of eyeliner, and That's it. Like I really should have done a full face of makeup because I'm sure you can see the dark circles around my eyes, but I wasn't feeling up to it today. And plus, it's 90 plus degrees in Orlando, and I didn't feel like getting beating my face. I will try to do better tomorrow because I will be back tomorrow. Do you? I should ask before I go. Do you guys want me to talk about the boys tomorrow? In addition to usually on Wednesdays I do from in Atlanta. So, do you want me to add a section on the boys tomorrow, or do you want me to do a separate live stream for the boys? Thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, that's very sweet of you to say. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Although I feel terrible without makeup. um, the boys, please do tomorrow. Okay. Okay, so I'll end up probably doing a double stream tomorrow. Tony Man also says, yes, the boys started there and carry it over to its own stream. That's what I'll do. I'll create two separate. I think I'll create two separate streams so that I can jump from one to the other. That way, people, they can either jump onto the other one or they can peace out. It's okay. Um, so I will probably need to do is start at 6 o'clock. Yeah, I think what I'll do is do the boys at 6 o'clock and then do from in Atlanta at 7 o'clock. So the schedule's still about the same. Thursday show is going to be going to be an earlier one though. It's going to be at 4 o'clock. Okay. And with that, I'm going to say good night because as you can see, I'm starting to lose my voice again anyways. Tony Man says, damn, I got a haul ass home tomorrow. Well, if you guys want me to do it later, I can do the first one at 7 and the second one at 8. Yeah, I'll do that. I prefer starting at 7 anyways. Okay, peace and nothing but hair grease. Yes. Have a good night.
Hey, 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 hey.